Russian, for instance, I don't know if Russia technically has access to this at all legally, but it is a very big part of it. And Russia, the Russian fandom, I don't know, I think it's like Arc of Our Own wide, actually. They have so many challenges, like a sort of combat type thing where they just translate everything and remix everything. And that's where most of these fics come from, or most of these works come from. It's fantastic. But I don't know if they have legal access to the series. I would imagine not, because it's very gay.
Yes.
But I'm not.
Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Belle and this is the Our Flag Means Fanfiction podcast. This is the Not in English Other Language episode of Our Flag Means Fan. Working title. We'll see what we come up with to actually name this. But we're talking about fics that are not in English. Joining me today is Deniz, who is Turkish-Canadian and has the only Turkish OFMD fic on AO3. Say hello, Deniz.
Hi all.
And also we have returning Sanne, who is Dutch and yet tries not to write in her native language if she can help it.
We're speaking in tongues for bringing that in.
I'm Belle, who reads several languages and speaks none of them, including English, well. Let's start things off like we always do. What is the most gay pirate thing you've done this week?
Well, the one thing that happened to me, I went to the Montreux Jazz Festival for the first time on Monday to see Pulp, and for some reason I'd heard of the opening band, Block Party, but I'd never seen them live before, and I had no idea. And anyway, let's just say there's something about their drummer, Louise Bartle, couldn't stop staring at her. So if anyone hasn't heard them yet, go have a listen, but really watch some videos if you can.
To be honest, I landed like 2 weeks ago. I came back from the UK after following Reese around for a bit. And since then, sort of everything has, I don't even know what time is anymore. So I guess I got my Taika goodies. My signed stuff has arrived. In terms of gay pirate stuff, though, I heckled Steve at the last show. And I told him when he asked, he did his joke about, what are the odds of rolling a 20? His one D&D joke that he does every set. Despite promising us all, he's doing a D&D set. And he asked us, so what are the chances of rolling a 1? And I said, well, he looked straight at me. He'd seen me several times already. He looked straight at me. He pointed at me. And I said, I'm too gay to do math. He did not get the joke, but I did set him up for a better joke. So that was, I guess, the most gay thing that happened.
That's excellent.
Apart from that, everything's a bit of a blur. These past 2 weeks, I've gone back to work. So I landed and I went straight back to work and I don't even know what time is anymore. So week, don't know. Not this week, at least, but yeah.
Time, much like gender, it's a construct.
Right?
And then for me, the most gay pirate thing I've done, I guess I finally finished my Steddyhands tattoo.
Ooh.
It's a Steddyhands, as I said, and it's all three of them as people, creatures. So I've got, of course, Stede as a mermaid or merman with a little heart in his bum. I've got Izzy as a shark. He's got a little wooden fin. And then, of course, Ed as a octopus because he's the Kraken. And they're all kind of holding each other. And it's very cute. And I'm very excited.
I need to see that. Can I see it? We see it somewhere.
Yeah. I could take my shirt off and show it. It's in the back of my shoulder.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah, that's a different podcast. But yeah, I will definitely send photos. I'm excited about it.
It sounds very good and I want to see what it looks like.
Excellent. Yes, I will share. Let's talk about fanfics in non-English languages.
I did a deep dive on our own in preparation of this whole thing because I like numbers. And I gotta say that Draco gave me a very nice heads up that she's already done something like that for the Ecclesiastical Latin Fest a couple of years ago. Basically looked at how many non-English fan works there were on Arc of Our Own. So now we can do trends and stuff. And it goes into numbers. I'm so sorry. I just said that I'm too gay to do math, but apparently I like numbers anyway. So, let's. But intriguingly, so we've done this over a couple of years now in 2023, 2024 and 2025. And we've got a total of 1,386 non-English language fics, or works, I should say, actually, on Our Own. And I'm specifically saying works instead of fics, and I will mess it up several times because there are plenty of works on there that aren't fic, but are art or any kind of other remix type thing, especially in the Russian fandom, by the way. There's lots of art being tagged with the native language as well, because there's often descriptions in there too, which makes sense. They are in Russian. I can't read them, but it is so interesting to look at it. And I think it's 0.03% or so of all our Flag Means Death fic is not written in English or not posted in English. And we've had a total of 25 different languages, excluding English. Even though we had one Estonian fic that was mistagged, Old English fic that was also mistagged. So this is data, by the way, because I know what Deniz is going to say. This is data from the 12th of July of 2025, just for, data reference, because I checked a couple of minutes ago and it's gone slightly up. We've got more Russian fics and we've got less Old English fics now. And I think Deniz has written the first Middle English one, but it's not up yet because we don't have the language Middle English yet. I made graphs as well. We've got lots of languages that only have one fic. But what I really do like, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna laugh about this for a while, is that we don't have any Portuguese fics or European Portuguese fics, but we do have Brazilian Portuguese fics. And not just a couple, we've got 18 of them, which is quite a lot. Especially, it's in the top, 10 of languages with specific, fics. So it's very intriguing. And I love to hear from the people who write in Brazilian Portuguese as to why there are so many like that, or if they have an idea of why that language tag is so big compared to a lot of the others, and why there's no European Portuguese. Because there are two very distinct tags on Arc of Our Own. And maybe it's it should be European and not Brazilian. I don't know, but it's so intriguing. And I also love that Ukrainian is so big because it's a bit of a, Russian is the biggest by far. It's over 50% of the entire language tag if we exclude English. Assume when I'm talking about these numbers that I'm excluding English, because we've got 765 Russian fics and on a total of 1,390, let's say. Let's round it up a little bit. That's over half. It's so intriguing. I've got to say, French, Spanish, Chinese, Ukrainian are basically the top 5 with Russian. And then we've got, I love these people. One fic in Slovenian, which is written by Alex. Fucking amazing. We've got one Scots fic, which is written by Fire. A Turkish fic from Deniz. I don't have on the top of my hand who wrote the Swedish one, but there's one. There's one in Filipino. There's one in Welsh and there's one in Catalan. And I just love that people have put in some effort to put their language on the map too. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I saw as I was looking at the tags as well that even Esperanto was in the tags. I was like, wow, who requested that? That's amazing.
It was a bit of a mess because I went through it by hand because you can scrape Arc of Our Own technically, but because so many people in the Our Flag Means Death fandom have locked their fics, a scraper bot won't pick them up. So I couldn't use a scraper bot. I had to go through all the language tags by hand to see if there was anything in there. And this is why I have to thank Draco again, because Draco has done this before. So I could go off their list of languages and go through them and then just go into Excel and see how many languages I was missing or how many fics I was missing in total, just to see if I had to go through all of them or if I could go for, it's most likely that, one will have been written in this particular language because I know someone wrote something in this particular language. So thank you, Draco, once again for helping me out, sort of. And I will be posting about this too. And I hope I can do it today so we can include it in the show notes for people who really want to check out all the numbers, because it is very interesting to see trends, because some fics have disappeared or have been taken down in their native languages. Sometimes it might have been mistagging and we don't know, but it is interesting to look at everything in this particular thing. And the trend is upward, by the way. There will be more fics in most languages.
Wondering whether as the show gains more popularity, for example, right now it's only in HBO Max. So, and I don't know in what other countries.
HBO is in most of Europe, I think. But also Europeans are very good at pirating stuff because we don't have access to most US-based streaming services. And like I said to a friend a few weeks ago, if you say, oh, it's up on Netflix, that's great. It's up on Netflix for the US. It doesn't mean it's up on Netflix for the rest of the world. So I think pirating is maybe the standard. But also lots of people have watched it on BBC because I don't know if it's still up on iPlayer, but it used to be up on iPlayer too.
I'm off. It's disappearing one by one off the viewing thing.
I think it's why it's lovely that some people just screen record stuff and put it in a very nice folder for people to find, which is technically not pirating, right? I'm not going onto a pirating website. I am using other people's resources here. But I think that's how much
sharing, which is what was that thing in the early 2000s, what they got in trouble for? Napster, which is what Napster got in trouble for. They were like, you're not allowed to. But there's also a thing, because it's not like like we are saying we won't pay for it. We're going to find somebody that does it for free. In fact, all of us are screaming, like, release DVDs, we'll buy them. Like, release, like, do a digital download, we'll buy it. We just don't have access. We're trying to give you our money.
I think that's interesting. I don't know if for some languages, Russian, for instance, I don't know if Russia technically has access to this at all legally, but it is a very big part of it. And Russia, the Russian fandom, I don't know, I think it's like Arc of Our Own Wide, actually. They have so many challenges, like a sort of combat type thing where they just translate everything and remix everything. And that's why where most of these fics come from, or most of these works come from. It's fantastic. But I don't know if they have legal access to the series. I would imagine not, because it's very gay.
Yes.
But I'm not Russian. I don't know. I know we've got Russian fans in the fandom somewhere, but we'd have to ask them, basically. I don't know the legalities of it all.
Yeah.
But they are very present in the fandom anyway. And I think it will go for more countries in the list where I don't know if they have legal access to it at all, but they're still in there. They're still creating.
I also found out that there was no Portuguese because I was looking for Portuguese fics and I couldn't find any European Portuguese, so that I did think that was interesting. I also went and asked some of my mates who speak Spanish and went, do you have any recs for Spanish language fics? And they hadn't ever read anything in Spanish. And they're like, oh, are you writing something? I was like, no, I can't even finish my English fics. So I want to hear your perspective, because you all actually write and post. You're actually people who finish things, which is fascinating and amazing to me. I'm a poster child for ADHD. I have like 87 started fics that have like blah blah in the middle and then the ending or something. And I haven't posted a single damn thing. How do you feel writing either in your language or native language or another language for a show that's in English?
I think that's where the difficulty lies, actually. We chatted about it a bit in the new Unicorn server, I think, about how we can know where people are from. And yeah, if it's an English language show and you're watching that, you will have some familiarity with English. And to be fair, I can say from experience that writing porn in your native language is odd. It doesn't work because you'll need some distance, and English has way better words for everything. So I do write in Dutch sometimes. Like Draco and I populated the entirety of the Dutch tag by ourselves, but it's mostly non-explicit. And I think there's like a sticking point, because I tend to write a lot of explicit fic. I feel English expresses it slightly better because the Dutch just doesn't. My first thought when I think about Dutch porn is the old men who wrote their books about World War II and sex. And that's basically, the entirety of the Dutch literature, highbrow stuff is that. And it's just so awkward for me to write in Dutch. That's one of the reasons. I do, however, like how easy it is to make Stede bitchy in Dutch, because Dutch in itself is rather bitchy. It works so well.
I never did that about Dutch. I may have to start trying to learn Dutch. I love it.
No, don't. Like Draco said on most of her fics, you can actually use Google Translate and it will sort of mostly translate it correctly, so you'll get the gist at least. But I feel awkward when I'm writing in my own language. And it's also because I started writing in English. Like, regardless of whatever it is I write, regardless of what I write, English feels more natural to me because there's a sort of a distance between me and what I'm writing that Dutch doesn't give me. Dutch feels too close. It feels too personal. So if I write something in Dutch, it's usually, we set up a collection for this, Izzy versus something, a very specific Dutch situation that I usually got caught in and I'm angry about, and I don't want to, rant about it. So I just put Izzy in a situation and just let him go through it again. I think the most famous one I wrote was Izzy versus the Dutch National Railway Service, which is a fight I fight every time I go into the office with delayed trains and then trains not going anywhere and you being at a station and hearing the sort of ding dong of like another train has been delayed for 5 minutes and it will now go from this particular platform and then it will repeat. So you don't have any peace whatsoever, which is great to write about. And that was great to write in Dutch because we have such a specific system for that works. But most of the time I will write in English because it feels better to me. If you're writing in your native language or in another language in English, you will have a smaller group of people who are interested in that. And so there is the awareness that if people go looking for it, it might be people who actually know you. So there's also a bit of that. And definitely, if the majority of fic is in one language, people will usually read that language. And English is very much a dominant language. I think maybe that's different for the Chinese drama fandom, where the main language might as well be Chinese, because that makes sense. But for our flag, it makes sense that majority of fics are in English, and the majority of fandom is also very much in English. So finding a group of people, because it's usually a group of people, you can find them in your kudos emails. Basically, you go like, oh yes, I've seen you before. You're also Dutch, or I know you speak Dutch, or I know that you translated it because you've done that before. You will start recognizing people because your audience is basically like you and the 10 people you've already met at conventions who you know are also speaking your language quite literally this time around, because speaking your language could also be very figurative. No, in this time it's quite literally they will speak your language, and I think your reach will be way smaller, but you're also aware of the fact that your reach is smaller. So what you write about is also sort of is way less anonymous. It's easier to find people in the fandom too.
From the reader part of it, my native language, my first language is Spanish, and then I didn't acquire the rest of my languages until I was 15 and up. And first of all, I don't code switch. So like a lot of people in Spanish, especially that I'm aware of, will say, we'll go back and forth English, Spanish, even within one sentence. Myself and my family, for some reason, don't. So even as I'm reading something in Spanish, but for an English show, I can't figure out whether I prefer it if they translate the name. So like if they call Barba Negra or something, or whether they're like, just say Blackbeard, but then that feels weird because you're just saying a random English words in the middle of a Spanish thing. And so that kind of takes me out of it. So I go through all these different levels of, I don't know how I feel about this.
It's very interesting because in Dutch, I don't translate the name. So that's because of one name in particular that makes it incredibly awkward to do. And that's Black Pete. Because if you translate Black Pete literally to Dutch, it becomes Zwarte Piet, which is a cultural discussion in the Netherlands because it's related to Sinterklaas, Saint Nicholas, and his helpers, which are all Black Petes. Like Black Pete on its own could just be, a nomenclature, but if you say Zwarte Piet, it will immediately become a cultural discussion. So I don't want to translate any of it. And so it's like one name pushing me towards not at all translating any of the names. Then again, I don't really write canon fic either, so I don't usually need to reference Blackbeard, because we do have Zwartbaard, which is the literal translation. It hurts so much too. So I just tend to stick with the names as they are mentioned in English. But that's also me and personal preference. And so it is sort of influenced by other stuff happening in the country around, through cultural debates too. I think that might be uniquely Dutch though, because it's a very Dutch thing. I don't think we've got like Sinterklaas the way we celebrate it in the Netherlands anywhere else in the world. Maybe, maybe Suriname, but Dutch, again, Indonesia will also have been influenced by Dutch. They will also be aware of this whole debate, but they might not see Black Pete necessarily as the cultural thing of Zwarte Piet. So I think that's a very interesting one. I don't translate the names.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And again, you see it because I went through a few Spanish and Portuguese and French fics. And again, some will translate revenge and some will just say the revenge. And again, there are people who are very comfortable with that. They're like, yeah, of course, that's how you speak. My cousins do a lot of, especially newer words, to just say the English word. And it bothers me. And I'm like, no, we have a word for that. I don't know why I understand if it's something that's impossible to translate. I get it. But if not, we've got words for that. So I'm kind of a bit of a sticking to one language person when it comes to that. It even bothers me that the French are like, le weekend. I'm like, have some dignity. Have your own word for it. Come on. So
I think like Dutch has no ground whatsoever to say we're not going to take this particular word, because Dutch is famously an amalgamation of all the languages around it, and we just keep picking up words. So we have adopted so many English words that if I walk around on the street, I will hear English every few seconds, and not just because we've got a lot of expats. No, also because people are adopting it into their own language every day. Like our language is changing even now so much that when we have this word of the year things that we do, we've got a word of the year that can be picked through I think it's the Dutch Language Society, and it will often be something that's been influenced by English. So, and the other way around as well, I think there are Dutch words that are sort of slowly being integrated into English, and it's waffelen, which is to hit something with your dick, like an inanimate object usually. And that has slowly been going into English somehow.
I love it. The language of smut to me is English. It's the thing that I'm most comfortable with. The thing that I find in Spanish, it's either in Spanish and French, it's either very flowery, which I like just fine. But also if I want a dirty talk, I don't want to talk about I don't want you to get flowery. I want you to get explicit. But if you get explicit in Spanish, especially to me, it sounds just so rude, like so unbelievably. It's in the cursing, like cursing in English. I'm like, yeah, everybody does it, it's fine. But as soon as you start cursing in Spanish, I'm like, how dare you? How very dare you? my heart just kind of goes, it's just so vulgar to me. And I like vulgarity, but that's too much. I don't know why. And same thing for Portuguese. Everything, no matter what you say, it always sounds very beautiful and sexy. I've also read the Marquis de Sade's works in French. So maybe that's like something to do with, I was newer to it because there's so much of it there and he was very vulgar. So I'm like, yeah, of course, that's just how you speak. so it's all over the place for me.
Yeah, I think it's partially because English has many more synonyms for the parts you'll need to input in an explicit fic than most other languages have. Like it's evolved so much. Or maybe it is because I've also not read much porn in Dutch because I don't want to. I don't feel the need to do that. I don't know. There's something, and I'm just, I opened my own explicit fic in Dutch and it hurts to read it through again. It just hurts where I go like, oh my God, it feels awkward. And maybe it's language. Maybe it's like not the fact that it feels too close. Like it's the language that I speak day to day, the language that I associate with work and with school. And English isn't that. English for me is a sort of, I do speak it a lot, but it's far away. It's the language for me of fiction more than Dutch is. I only read thrillers in Dutch, by the way, which is also a bit of a difference. I could probably write a thriller in Dutch or a horror novel, but not anything explicit, not anything romantic, because I don't know how to use the language like that, to manipulate the language without it having it's sounding sort of odd and stilted. Because when I'm reading through this particular fic too, it just feels stilted to me. And I wrote it. I wrote it, I edited it. It feels like it's just step by step somehow. Like it can't get the connection that English often does. And it might just be me writing, like how it probably is, because I didn't feel comfortable or not quite comfortable writing it. So there might just be another connection in there, like your level of comfort with writing it. And like Deniz said beforehand, like sort of the fact, Deniz with Turkish, like my mom might read this. Yeah, my mom might read this. I don't want her to read it.
That's a very good point. I wonder, because we were talking about this.
Yeah, I think it's also representation, right? So like Draco and me are all of 9 of the Dutch fics. That means that we are representative of the Dutch fandom in that sense too. Whether we want to or not. I mean, we're both relatively present anyway, but we are sort of the representation of the Dutch fandom in the sense that if people go into the Dutch language tag, they will find our fics and that's it. So it'll have to be good, because with English, you can just drown in the, what was it, 36,000 fics in English that are currently up, something like that. You're never going to be found unless people know who you are. Basically, it's comforting to have some sort of anonymity in that sense that you don't have in a small language tag.
Well, and we'll talk about reach as well. And I can't speak for other languages that I'm not quite as familiar with. I mean, obviously, I know the difference between Montreal French and Parisian French, definitely. But in Spanish, we're just talking about this with some of my colleagues that also speak Spanish. The language you use, the words that you use really can vary widely from place to place, even from country to country in Latin America, which is, we're all about the size of a quarter and we're all right next to each other. You can immediately tell when somebody's from something else because they'll use a different word for something, let alone accents and all that stuff. So I was just reading, in fact, I stayed up way too late given that I had to get back up at 1 o'clock in the morning, finished reading a fic in Spanish, and it was in Spanish from Spain. And there's some things that I had to look up because I was like, and that means what? And they're like, oh, that's not how we say it. So you have to, I guess if you write in Spanish, you have to pick which Spanish you're going to use. Are you going to, and if you can only do your own, then for example, if I wrote it, then I'm writing to a bunch of people in Ecuador, like that's a very small portion of the population. And some people may be able to pick up from context and everything, but I'm likely to write certain things in, say, Quechua, which I didn't even realize in my head was Quechua because it's just part of how we speak. And then I go, oh, nobody else knows what that means because it's not actually Spanish. So we've got that extra bit.
Maybe especially for Spanish and Brazilian as well. But for Brazilian, we've got a different tag for different types of Portuguese. Why do we have that for Spanish? That's a question for Akavaro, by the way, not for us to discuss, because there's a choice has been made. And I know sometimes languages can be added, like Deniz is looking into adding Middle English because she wrote something in Middle English. But I think for Dutch, it's like Dutch, there are differences, definitely, but it's a relatively small country, especially compared to Spain, for instance. And then with the breadth of people who speak Spanish in different countries around the world, where you'll have a change in how it's been developing, basically, and which words you will or will not use. But Dutch is, well, we've got Flemish, which is completely different, but mostly that's still Dutch. And a Dutch speaker will struggle with some of the accents and they will not understand some of the words. But in general, they will sort of, they will get the gist, at least. They won't have to look up words. So that might be a more worldly problem in that sense. But it is interesting because it will sort of tell people where they're from too. If you're reading it, if you read my fic closely, you'll probably figure out which part of the country I sort of live in or have lived in for a long time, because that's what my writing will be influenced by, that in general anyway. But yeah. But
I guess that also applies to English. Like, I can immediately tell if somebody is writing in British English just by the words they're going to be using generally. So, but for some reason, I guess because I'm so familiar with British English, it doesn't bother me, or it doesn't take me out of it or anything. I'm like, oh no, these are from the UK.
Sometimes it's setting too. If someone sets a fic in the UK, they will probably use more UK words. I've set my spell check to Aotearoa New Zealand English a while ago, which is intriguing because I grew up, so I studied English, but I studied specifically UK English. And then I studied abroad in the UK, so I picked up a lot of UKisms, basically. And then I went to study in Canada for a bit. So my English is all over the place. And now it's also including New Zealand English, which makes for intriguing things when people better read my stuff. Because it will have S's all over instead of the Z, because I also hate the Z in there. It's horrible to me, personally. But that's a me issue, right?
No, that's really funny.
Yeah, I do think is sometimes people post, like, I can always spot a non-native language speaker when they write something. And I'm like, you won't, because our English is usually better than the native speakers. So
we were talking about that, yeah.
I
will never confuse the yours. I will never confuse its. I will never confuse theirs. Like, you will never catch me doing that, because I learned English primarily first by reading. So, I'm not going to make those mistakes. I will catch them immediately. All the homonyms that natives speak. So the kid that I picked up to help me learn English was British English. And I've always liked the UK better anyway. And then the people my friends that I made while I was learning English were from South Africa. So they spoke slightly different English. And I would say, if I can help it, I'm watching British television. A lot of the authors I read are British and stuff like that. So my spelling has OUs. And I used to fight it. I used to go, okay, like, separate it in like at work, I'll use the English, and then and I'm like, oh, screw it, everybody knows. So I just used the UK spelling, and I'm like, what? This is just what I'm used to. And I have my devices set to UK English as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like and it's one of the points that you make, speaking English with other fans, right? I think, and it's because it's all connected, but the amount of works in that are published in not English are so very low. If we want to find each other as fans, we will not be doing that in our own native language usually, because the reach is very small. And I do, like, the Dutch have set up a small Dutch server. We do meetups. During those meetups, we will speak Dutch. But in general, when I'm communicating with other fans, I will default to English because it's easier. Before I know if they even speak my honestly very tiny language, I will just try and reach out in English. And then I can check at some point, maybe, do you speak Dutch? Can I speak Dutch with you? And it will usually only be in a person that we do Dutch most of the time. Writing will generally be in English. And interestingly, so we've got a European server as well. That's definitely English. But even our Dutch pirate server the big for the the public facing one that we have, where people can just come in if they want to visit the Netherlands and want to meet up. All communication, including the ones about local Comic Cons, are all done in English. Like there will occasionally be Dutch things in there, but mostly it will be in English, because we know we've got people visiting from abroad. We know we've got people in the server that don't speak Dutch who just come in, visit, and we want those things to be available to them too. So even in our Dutch pirate group, we will speak English most of the time. Also, probably because the series is in English. So we default to the source material language, so to speak. And the Arc of Our Own tags thing that you also put in there, that's because it's canonized fics. So we can put in Dutch tags, but it will not help find them either. So we just tag in English. Also easier somehow. I think I put in like one Dutch tag or something. That's about it. It feels more natural to tag in English too. So they are also like immediately canonized.
Yeah, the another thing that I noticed in a lot of the languages that I was looking for fics, a lot of them had English titles, and I was like, is this a translation from, and I didn't look into it enough, to be honest, to be like, okay, is this based on something? But yeah, so I thought that was interesting as well.
The title thing, I think lots of people use song titles or song lyrics as fic titles, which might be the reason there. Yeah.
Well, it's a fascinating thing, yeah. And the few times that I've run into Spanish speakers in social or something from the fandom, it's always like, oh, you speak Spanish? Oh my goodness. And we just,
I think it might also be based on where you're at. You know, because I am in the Netherlands. If I go to a local convention, I will speak Dutch there, unless I speak with a vendor who's got the little flag up and says that they don't speak Dutch. So the setting might help too. If you're based in the US or UK and you have Australia, any English-speaking country in the world, basically, you will generally default to English because your assumption will be that people speak English, which is generally an assumption in English-speaking fandom anyway, that you will speak English or you'll be familiar with it. And I think that also informs the way you approach other fans, because your first assumption will be they're in an English-speaking country. They will have some familiarity with English, at least. We can try and speak to them in English.
Yeah.
And then maybe you can find out that you speak another language too. You could switch to that, or you could just stick to what you've been doing all along.
I also spoke in English to Vico, which is funny because I know for a fact that they speak Spanish, and in fact they do often. And I was like, why am I speaking English to you in my head? We could be speaking, we could be bonding over knowing Spanish.
Next time I can do that. I mean, I would probably do the same if Samba ever came to the Netherlands, because Samba's Dutch. Like, he's been raised with Dutch, at least. I will not, like, my first connection would not be speak to him in Dutch. My first connection would be to bring him Dutch snacks, but not to speak to him in Dutch, because I only know him through the English-speaking stuff that he's done. He's done Dutch comedy as well, and it's fantastic. But that's been so long ago, and he's moved to the US, so he's, his main language will probably be English now. So I will approach it as his first language will now be English. Makes sense to talk to him in that rather than my own native language and one of his native languages. But that might be what happened there with Vico too.
Sanne, do you want to touch a little bit more into the Ecclesiastical Latin Fest?
Yeah, I can do that very quickly. So this is also Draco. Draco is going to feature a lot in here. My fellow Dutch fan who is very present online and whenever she has time, she will run things to increase sort of visibility about other time zones and other languages, because English is kind of dominant, and then especially US, it can be very US centric about things, saying like, oh, it's going to be 3 p.m. insert US time zone here that no one knows what it even is. Hammer time is great for that. I will just plug it here too. But Draco has been doing a lot about this, and I don't think she's got basically a lot of energy right now to do it again. But in 2024, she ran a challenge, or several of them actually, to work specifically on increasing the number of languages on our own. So encouraging people to write in their own native language, just as a challenge, even if it was like 100 words, just write about something, write about a character, anything, and post it. Just so we know that there are more fans than just the English massive block of fans that we've already got. And so people can maybe also read in their own language for a bit, which is always going to be intriguing. And they also ran the Continental Challenge. That was in May 2024, which specifically set something in a specific place. But that's maybe not necessarily always going to be North America, although that was one of them. But look at other places too. This is once again the US-centric part. Also, probably part of why a lot of English fics are even here. And it's also sort of increased visibility of other languages and other places in the world than the US. And this is this is very European view, I think, too. The way the US tends to center themselves as the sort of major hub in the world and sometimes even forgets that there are other places in the world too. So this was all about creating more visibility, and the outcome of Ecclesiastical Latin Fest is actually a massive increase in fics in other languages too. So when I share the graphs, you can see that in 2023 we didn't really have a lot of fics in other languages than English. So we started at 840-ish, and after the first Ecclesiastical Latin Fest we had 200 more fics, and we're currently 400 past that. So we've increased 600 fics since that. Like the majority of that will be Russian again, but some other languages as well. I've especially seen a sort of boom in French, which is just great, that people feel more familiar or happier about publishing in their own language too, even if it's translations, because translations are also needed, right? Some people aren't familiar enough with English to feel comfortable reading that and want to read something in their own language instead. So that's the Ecclesiastical Latin Fest. I don't think it will be running this year, maybe again next year. I don't know. But it was definitely very much geared towards increasing the visibility and making sure that other people know that there's interest in non-English fics and non-North American, UK/ out there in New Zealand, Australia settings. It's going to be a list. Canada too, by the way. So it's basically just trying to do that. And I know there's been I think it was a zine about Italy as well. So maybe we've got a bit of a boom coming with more fics specifically in other languages or in other places. And I just love seeing that. Oh, yeah. And I think that's like part of it. It's not necessarily fics in not English, but it does increase awareness of the fact that there are other places than the standard English speaking countries where we tend to set fics anyway, because it makes sense if you're writing in English that you're setting it somewhere in an English speaking part of the world, but that's not really necessary anyway. So I do think it's done a lot to increase visibility, hopefully, too. And I mean, it's an open invite anyway to please create things in your own language, because it's fascinating, and promo it, because you will find new people in the fandom. I have found several people that I didn't know were in the fandom through publishing my fics in Dutch.
That's wonderful.
And we can sort of, bring them into the fold.
Yeah. So I did see, it was funny when I was looking for a French fic to rec. I did notice a bunch of French fics that were like 700 words. Those are really short. I could get through those. That's great. But yeah, and I don't love that. And I actually kind of want to find a Spanish fic to podfic since I've been doing those. So I do not have the balls to podfic French or Portuguese. I just don't. I admire people who learn a language and they're like, I'm going to use it everywhere. I'm like, until I can speak it perfectly, not a word is coming out of my mouth.
And sometimes you just have to do things for yourself as well. And even if you maybe don't publish any French podfics, it might be good for your grasp of the language and your pronunciation, because the way I learned English was by pronunciation classes and having to speak it a lot, and it will increase the flow as well. It will make it easier for you to grasp how words should flow. And if you find we've got plenty of French speaking people in the fandom actually. Some are from France, some are probably from Canada. I don't know how much of a difference it makes between the two, because French is very much not my language. But if you find one of them, to just listen to it and maybe help you figure out if there are bits and pieces that don't work, it will help you too. And we've got like 150-ish French fics. I think that will probably also be a market, because 150 is a lot. If you're a very relatively small language with not a lot of fans, people will stop writing for it anyway. So I think there will be a market for it. Even if it's like 3 or 4 people, you will have helped 3 or 4 people, because there's an increased call for podfics anyway.
There was one more. There was the research into fanfiction.
Yeah. Sometimes you get weird Tumblr messages, right? Those sort of weird things where you go like, what the hell is going on here? I got one of them, but it turns out to be an actual research project, which is currently running at the University of Groningen, which is in the north of the Netherlands. They are looking into specifically Archive of Our Own fics and to see how cultural traits spread through fiction. So they are looking into 6 languages. They still say 5 on their website, but they're doing 6 because they're also doing Dutch, which is the reason I'm part of it. So they look at fan fiction in English, Spanish, Italian, Korean, and Indonesian, and Dutch, mostly on Archive of Our Own, but also some other platforms. And they are mapping everything to see how the cultural traits of a language and of a culture connected to that language are spreading throughout fiction. So, and it's regardless of fandom. So they will be comparing my Our Flag Means Death Dutch fanfic to other fic in Dutch, which is probably Even Tot Hier, which is a random show, and some other things, which don't have anything to do with each other in terms of like the content, but they are trying to look if people use language in the same way, if they have specific cultural differences that, are being shown throughout fics, regardless of author, regardless of fandom, that will just be in there. And it is fascinating that someone is doing research like this, really focused on language and culture over the fandom research that's already being done. And most of that will be connected to Archive of Our Own because they have their own journal as well. I don't know if you know about this. There's a lot of research being done on Archive of Our Own, and they have their own journal where they publish bits about that. And it's very interesting if you want to go through it. There's some very interesting articles in there. But this is separate from that. This specific Golem, it's called Golem research part, is funded by the European Union. So it's the European Union funding someone's fanfic research, basically. It's a massive project and they're hoping to wrap up in 2 years. I'm very curious because they didn't reach out to start building their database until like early this year, I think, maybe late last year. But it's very interesting that someone is really researching languages specifically on Archive of Our Own and other fanfic archives. And I just wanted to mention it in case people like me got a very odd Tumblr message or a very odd comment on their language fics, because it's genuinely someone who wants to include your fic in their research. And I'm looking forward to seeing what comes from it, to be honest, because I have no idea what they're going to find. They clearly think there's something to be found. I think they're mostly focused, because this is a first study, so it will be a baseline study. I think they're mostly looking at fics that are currently tagged in the language, and then they're comparing those languages to each other. So they will have Dutch researchers, and they've got Korean researchers, Italian people, and a few Spanish people going through the fics to see if there are any similarities throughout that speak to a sort of specific cultural context. And I'm very curious what the Spanish is going to do, especially after what you said, Belle, about the difference in, European Spanish and non-European Spanish. So
yeah, I'm fascinated what they'll find, because even within Latin America, we can be right next door, and as soon as they open their mouth and they use a word that the other countries, you're like, oh, you're not from here, are you? Like it's very fast. So I'm very curious as to what they're going to find, and how much of that English bleed through is going to influence as well. As I said, a lot, especially the youths, are using a lot of English words. They just go, forget it, we'll just use the English word. So yeah, yep. I am very curious.
I mean, we can put the link in the show notes too if people are interested in looking at it. They've got a website set up with their research papers, and I think they did some conferences where they presented a poster, and all of that is included. It is still in early stages of research, so it might be, you might have to keep the link for a couple of years and just check back occasionally, but we can include it in the show notes, I think, for people who are interested.
Yeah. Another interesting thing that I found out as I was looking at things is that I've lost most of my Italian. So from not having practiced it in too long, and now I guess I don't even sing in Italian anymore. I used to at the uni, obviously. And now, so I was starting to read a fic, and I was like, I have to really get back into this, because it seems like I've lost most of it.
I took German for 2 years, I think, during secondary school, and French for 3 years. Dropped both, took ancient Greek instead. And I know how to say that I don't speak your language, which is a point I make for every language, that if I start learning, the first few sentences that I want to learn is, I don't speak your language. Can you speak English? Just because it's a nice thing. And if you know yes and no, you'll get quite far.
Yes, no, thank you.
I live like 10 minutes from the German border, so this is it.
I mean, so as I was reading the French fic that I'm going to rec, it's amazing the way my brain had held on to what words had left. So I was looking up a few things, and I was like, oh, just something random, like that's desk. I mean, I knew what desk was, but like, I should know that. It's in there somewhere. But like, they fucked, they kissed, all that. I was like, no, I remember that.
Remembering all the bits.
Surprisingly, for the horny imp in the group. Let's talk about fic recs.
Yeah, like I've been saying, I will rec, like for Dutch fics, I can rec myself, but that feels very awkward. So I will not rec myself. I will instead rec the other person who wrote all of the other Dutch fics. That's Draco the Lizard. You can read them using Google Translate as per her own notes, which is very intriguing. I've not tried it, but apparently someone commented on her fics saying that it works. Yep. Oh, you've done it. There you go. Oh, good. So you can use Google Translate. I've not tried it for my own fics, but if you want to do that, go ahead and try it. With a small note, some of the crossovers, especially Draco's ones with Het Sinterklaasjournaal, might require some cultural context. In which case, I would require, just Google Sinterklaas and or Sinterklaasjournaal, which is the St. Nicholas news, basically, which is a show that runs from about halfway through November until the 6th of December, where we talk about what the hell's going on this year with St. Nicholas arriving in the Netherlands, because always something going wrong when he tries to arrive. It's a whole thing. It's also a thing that I keep following despite no longer believing in, the concept of St. Nicholas, the guy who brings presents to children. But it is fascinating to see what the hell they came up this year, basically. So be aware of those ones. And then I will also rec the one other fic in non-Dutch or not English that I read, because like I said, my languages are non-existent despite having, taken a lot of them during secondary school. And that's Fire's Coming Home. I'm not sure if I pronounce that correctly. I don't speak Scots. This is a Scots fic that Fire wrote in their own. They are Scots. It was their first fic. It was amazing. It's fic about buttons, which it's so very, very good. And honestly, surprisingly easy to read if you have a background in Germanic languages of any sort. So Dutch, German will help. If you know Old English, it will help. If not, you can probably get through it anyway, or you will understand most of it. But it's very well written, and I really, really liked it.
I might have to check that out. Maybe, I won't send it to my brother-in-law because he's a bit of a dick. He won't read fan fiction. So what I've got is I've picked one in all the languages that I can apparently still read. So the Spanish one is the one that kept me up too late mostly because the filth was at the end. So I was like, I will get to the filth, damn it, before I go to sleep. So I know it's called Compania. It's a fic where I love this one. Stede's dad, of course, trying to marry him off. It's set in the US and the UK, is trying to marry him off. He says, no, I'm dating somebody. Obviously, he's not dating anybody. So he looks for an escort, and the escort is Val from Uncle. There is a twist to that, but Izzy's involved as well. I'm not going to give it away, but I loved it. It was great, and it kept me reading. It's from, I dare I say, it's from I Am Momo. Very cool. Then for the French one, I'm going to recommend Lady Meg 666 Fist Steddyhands fic, and it's called Pour la seconde. I'm still reading through it because it's 14 chapters and I only have so much time. But so far it's super cute, and it's basically one of those Stede is okay with Ed being with Izzy, but Ed is having difficulty being nice and sweet to Izzy, and so Stede goes, I'll do it. So, and I love that particular trope. It's so beautiful. And by the way, of the 18 Brazilian Portuguese fics there are, only 3 of them are explicit, and we all know Belle only reads explicit fics. So I was like, excuse me. So I picked my favorite one, which is Dia 3, Kinktober 2022, Glove Kink by timeturnerlady. That's literally the name of the fic, so it doesn't even have a Portuguese name. But I really liked it. It's Izzy, or Stede realizes that Izzy has a bit of a glove kink, and so does he. So they have a little fun time with Ed kind of sneakily watching. So that's a fun one. And it's a short one as well.
Makes me want to get into more languages, to be honest. I might model through if I read them. I will try and read these as well. And it's interesting you say, like,
thinking.
Yeah, you probably can try at least. I mean, sometimes it is all about giving it a try. To me, like Spanish, Italian or French will not be easy to understand because, Germanic language. But I might just try and muddle through, just see where I get without Google Translate. And the point I was going to briefly comment on is interesting that there are 3 explicit Brazilian Portuguese fics. For the Dutch tag, where we've got 9 fics, there's only 1 explicit one. So Portuguese is actually doing very well. It's got relatively more.
Portuguese writers out there, please give me more explicit fics to read. I crave the fill.
I can quickly check for you. There are 3 mature out of all of 5 German fics. There are 3 mature ones. One is unrated and one is general. So mature isn't explicit. It's interesting. It does sort of tie back into the whole, maybe not being quite comfortable with it. And now I wonder, maybe I will at some point do some more research into the amount of explicit fics versus non-explicit fics to see if, the feeling that Deniz and I have about, it not quite feeling right, if that is true. I'm sorry, I derailed there a bit.
No, you're good.
We didn't even talk about the translations versus original, or original in a sense. But hey, once again, something I can maybe include in my data set.
Yes, definitely something to think about. And I was wondering, as I was looking at some of these, I was like, is this a translation? Or do you speak several languages and amazing like that and feel comfortable enough writing in all of them? So, yeah. Okay, my friends, as we wrap things up, tell me, what are you working on? What are you looking forward to? And if you want people to find you on the interwebs, tell me where they can find you.
I am currently posting my reverse Big Bang collab with Mana, which is we've been screaming about it for a long time, and it's great to be able to release it into the wild. I am also working on Big Bang Fics, because there's two of them, apparently. Because one of them, I have no idea if I can find an artist who's willing to do it. And so I have a backup plan, basically. And the backup plan is fully written, just needs editing, which is, I don't know how I did this. I wrote it in like 2 weeks. And I am also working on Easy Hands bingo fills, because I forgot I signed up for that. And to be honest, I am very much looking forward to going back to the UK again. I will be there from the 6th until the 11th of August to see the Cryptid Factor and Reese again, because I, figured out this is the year I'm going to do things that make me happy. And I'm working on a cross-stitch gift for the Cryptid Factor boys. Last year, I gave them a cross-stitched version of their logo. This year, I am challenging myself by doing something similar, but with the 100th episode logo, and I'm turning it into a photo frame. I have no idea how I'm going to do it. I will figure it out. I have approximately 2 more weeks to get it finished. So I'm sort of looking forward to being done with that and then going to the UK. And if you want to find me online, I am FPopper everywhere, FPWOPER, unless you're looking for me on Instagram, where I apparently claimed the name and then forgot all of my login information. So over there, I FUBWOPER. It's this thing that happens when you're 12. You stick with a name and you're just rolling with it. But I'm mostly Blue Sky on Discord, really, honestly, the easiest way to reach me these days. And on Tumblr and on Archive of Rome, of course, same name. So, yep.
Fantastic. Oh, myself, let's see, what am I looking forward to? Oh, what am I working on? I'm still working on, thank you for your patience, people. I finally had somebody comment, hey, still looking for your next chapter. I've already listened to this twice. On Late Blooms by Kalan's Phantom, I've got chapter 5 ready to post. Sorry, it's been a crazy time. And I'm going to still keep going with my pod faking. I'm really, really enjoying it. What else am I working on? That's it of fun stuff. And I'm working on this. I'm doing all the as many episodes as I possibly can. I'm a little crazy. That's why I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning for the first time. I can't remember the last time I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning, as a matter of fact. And what am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to all the stuff that you people are pulling out. This is amazing. Izzy Hands Bingo, yes, please. All the reverse Big Bangs and the Big Bangs, all that, incredible. And I too am going to the UK, but I'm not doing it for August. I'm going in September. There were cheap tickets. I'm going back. That's all there is to it.
It does feel like we're sort of missing each other now every time, because you left when I came in.
Yes.
One day.
But one day we'll actually hook up. And so I'm landing in the UK, but who knows? After I land there, the world's my oyster. So who knows where I'll end up. And then to find me on the metas, I'm on the Belle La Saltimbanque. It's in French. If you ever want to talk to me about how that came about, I'll tell you it's a long story. And then in everything else, Perilous and Wicked, the letter N, on Tumblr and Archive of Our Own and all that good stuff. You can find my fics either that or a Whiskey Tango Foreigner. And that's me. So if, like me, you want to get involved, and Deniz and Sanne want to get involved in this podcast, we'd love to have you. We are everywhere in all the socials under Our Flag Means Fanfiction. You can also write to us, our flag means fanfiction, gmail.com. Do leave us a review so people can find us, and to let the world know that there's still a thirst for our flag related content. If you have suggestions questions, if you want to get involved, if you want to yell at us because we said something terrible, just talk to us. We're lonely. But until next time, do creations, be cringe, commit crime. Bye.